The morning smelled of straw and sunshine. That's how I'll always remember it. Emily was already outside, crouched by the chicken coop, her messy brown hair pulled into a crooked ponytail. She was 12, but when she was out here with her birds, she looked like a seasoned farmhand, moving with a quiet, patient purpose. "Dad, Daisy's being greedy again," she called over her shoulder. I stepped down from the porch, coffee mug in hand, and walked toward her. She's just making sure she's the boss. Emily giggled, sprinkling feed from a plastic scoop. Daisy, our plump Rhode Island red, clucked her way to the center of the group like she owned the place. These weren't just any chickens. They were part of Emily's school agriculture project through the state's Youth Agriculture Initiative, a program designed to teach kids real-life farming and animal care skills. Her agriculture teacher, Mrs. Henderson, had given her the chicks months ago. Since then, she'd logged every detail in a notebook, feed measurements, egg counts, even molting schedules. The goal? Present her findings at the state competition in October. Win or lose, she'd get to talk to college recruiters from agricultural programs. For a girl who'd been dreaming about becoming a veterinarian since she was 8, it was everything. Unfortunately, it wasn't everything to everyone. At exactly 9:14 a.m., I heard it. The slow crunch of tires on gravel. Deliberate, like someone who wanted to be noticed. Karen Baxter's Lexus rolled to a stop in front of our house. The door opened, and out stepped the HOA president herself, all crisp white blouse, iron slacks, and the kind of smile that only showed teeth, never warmth. She was clutching a clipboard like it was a weapon. "Morning, Mr. Carter," she said, walking up the driveway. I braced myself. "Morning, Karen." She glanced at the coop, eyes narrowing. "We've received multiple complaints about livestock being kept on your property." "They're not livestock," I said evenly. "They're part of my daughter's agriculture project, state-approved, school-sponsored." Karen tilted her head, the way you might when examining something unpleasant on the bottom of your shoe. "Our bylaws clearly prohibit poultry, livestock, or any form of farm animal within the neighborhood." Emily turned from the coop. "They're my chickens," she said softly, but firmly. "I'm raising them for school. It's part of the Future Farmers Club." Karen's lips tightened. "Young lady, I'm not here to debate. Rules are rules." "Karen," I said, stepping closer, "this isn't a chickens in the backyard situation. The state sent the paperwork to the school and to us. This project is protected under education statutes. It's temporary and it's supervised." She gave a little shrug that screamed condescension. "Temporary or not, it's a violation. You have 48 hours to remove them or face daily fines." Emily's face fell. "But—" She was already turning back to her car. "I'm sure you'll make the right decision." That night, Emily barely touched her dinner. She sat there, poking her fork at mashed potatoes, her notebook closed beside her plate. "I don't get it," she murmured. "They're not hurting anyone. They're clean, they're quiet. Well, mostly." "They're not the problem," I told her. "Some people just like to enforce rules for the sake of enforcing them." She looked up at me. "They can't take them, right?" I hesitated. "They shouldn't be able to." But I'd lived under this HOA long enough to know that shouldn't didn't mean wouldn't. 2 days later, my fear was confirmed. I pulled out my phone and called Karen directly. She answered on the second ring. "Where are my daughter's chickens?" I demanded. "They're being housed in a more appropriate facility," she replied smoothly. "You can collect them once you've relocated to a compliant location." "You had no right," she cut in. "I did, and I do. Goodbye, Mr. Carter." The line went dead. Emily refused to go to school the next day. "What's the point?" she muttered from her bed.
My project's gone. I can't finish my log. I can't compete. I sat on the edge of her bed. We're getting them back, I promise. The next morning, I called Mrs. Henderson. Her outrage was instant. They can't do that. The program is protected under state law. I'll send you the statute and a formal statement. Then I called the state agriculture office. Then the Future Farmers of America's regional chapter. And finally, the local news station. By Monday afternoon, the headline was out. HOA seizes student agriculture project chickens. State calls it overreach. The station invited Emily and me in for an interview. She sat beside me, hands clasped tight in her lap, her voice small but steady. They weren't just chickens, she told the camera. They were my project. I was learning how to care for them, and I was going to present them for competition. I want to be a veterinarian one day. Now, I don't know. That clip spread fast. Parents started posting their own HOA horror stories. Local farmers chimed in about the importance of teaching kids agriculture. Even people outside our state were tagging the HOA in angry comments. By Wednesday, Karen called me, her tone brittle. "Perhaps we can work something out," she said. I let the silence stretch before replying. "We'll work it out when my daughter's chickens are back in her yard." That Saturday, the HOA held an emergency community meeting. Karen stood at the front trying to defend their decision with words like neighborhood aesthetics and sanitation concerns, but the crowd wasn't buying it. A woman in the second row stood up. "This is ridiculous. She's a child. She's learning. What are you teaching our kids, that rules matter more than people?" Someone in the back shouted, "Give the kid her chickens back!" Karen's jaw tightened, but she could feel the room slipping away. And that's when I knew I could push this further. I didn't just want the chickens back. I wanted something that would make sure they could never pull this stunt again. The Monday after the emergency meeting, the HOA board got a letter that might as well have been a sledgehammer. It came from the State Department of Agriculture, with a copy sent to me, Mrs. Henderson, and the local news station. The language was crisp, lethal, and loaded with legal teeth. The poultry project conducted by Emily Carter is a recognized educational activity under the State Youth Agriculture Initiative. HOA interference with this project constitutes a violation of state educational statutes and will be subject to legal action if not immediately remedied. And just to twist the knife, this office strongly recommends the HOA review its bylaws to ensure they comply with state law regarding student agricultural activities. It was the kind of letter that didn't just say, "Stop." It said, "Stop or we'll ruin you in court." By Wednesday, Karen was back at my front door. This time, she didn't park the Lexus in front of the house. She parked halfway down the street, as if that would somehow hide her. I opened the door, leaning against the frame, letting her stew in the awkward silence. "We'd like to return the chickens," she said at last, voice tight, "in the spirit of resolving this matter amicably." Emily appeared at my side like a shot. "Really?" Karen's lips pressed into a thin line. "Yes, we'll arrange delivery tomorrow." I looked at her. "On one condition." Her brow furrowed. "What condition?" "You don't just bring them back. You make this right, publicly, and you do something for the kids in this neighborhood so they know the HOA isn't just a bunch of rule enforcers with too much time on their hands." Her eyes narrowed. "And what exactly would that be?" "An annual farm fair," I said, Here, in the neighborhood park, booths, animals, demonstrations. Local kids can showcase their projects, and the HOA sponsors it. Her reaction was almost worth the entire fight. A slow, twitchy blink, as if I'd suggested she build a barn in her driveway. "That's absurd," she said flatly. "It's either that," I told her, "or I keep every news outlet in the state up to date on how the HOA tried to kill a child's education program, and I'll make sure they cover every HOA meeting until the day I move out." Silence. She wasn't just weighing the cost of the fair, she was calculating how much worse the humiliation could get. Finally, she exhaled. "Fine. One farm fair." "Annual," I said. Her jaw flexed. "Annual." The chickens came home the next afternoon. Emily ran into the yard before the truck even stopped, her sneakers kicking up dust. She knelt on the grass, arms open, as Daisy strutted toward her like a celebrity on the red carpet. "You're home," Emily whispered, running her hands through the bird's russet feathers. "You're really home." I stayed back, letting her have her moment. I caught Karen watching from the curb, arms crossed, face tight. She probably thought she was ending the story here, but this was only the prologue to her public undoing. The first Maple Grove Farm Fair took place 2 months later. The HOA tried to keep it small, a few folding tables from the FFA chapter, a pen with 2 goats, a stack of hay bales for seating, but word had gotten around and the turnout was bigger than anyone expected. Kids brought rabbits, ducks, and even a lamb for the petting zoo. One family set up a homemade lemonade stand. Emily proudly displayed her coop, complete with posters explaining poultry breeds and feed ratios. She entered Daisy in the Best Hen contest and won. Karen handed her the ribbon with the stiffest smile I've ever seen. Cameras were clicking all around us. Year 2, the fair doubled in size. Local beekeepers gave honey tasting demos. A garden club set up an heirloom tomato tasting table. A neighbor brought his horse for pony rides. Families from outside Maple Grove came just for the fair. Karen had to open the fair wearing an HOA-branded apron that said, "Proud Sponsor." The irony was lost on no one. By year 3, the fair had become a community tradition. The same neighbors who once glared at anyone with a slightly long lawn now spent the day hauling hay bales, grilling burgers, and teaching kids how to compost. Local media covered it every year. The HOA even boasted about it in their newsletter, as if they had come up with the idea themselves. But the veterans of the chicken battle knew the truth. They knew the fair existed because the HOA tried to crush one determined 12-year-old, and the community decided enough was enough. Emily's projects grew with each passing year. Chickens gave way to dairy goats, then to a vegetable plot she cultivated in a neighbor's unused backyard. By the time she turned 17, she'd won multiple state awards and earned a scholarship to study veterinary science. But she never missed a farm fair. She always set up her old chicken coop, now repainted and labeled "The Project That Started It All," and told kids the story. Not just about the chickens, but about standing up when you're right, and about how one small victory can change an entire community. Karen still lives in Maple Grove. She still walks past my yard with her lips pressed tight whenever Daisy's descendants wander near the fence. But she's never tried to remove them again, because every September, when the park fills with animals and laughter and the smell of grilled corn, and the banner goes up reading "Maple Grove Farm Fair," hosted by the HOA, she has to stand there, smile for the cameras, and know deep down that the only reason this event exists is because she lost. And that's the sweetest revenge of all.